I carefully chipped away at the flaking coating on the flyback until I got down to a solid surface. And then I loaded up the RTV-133 into a caulk gun, cut away the tip for a fairly small bead, about 1/8 of an inch, and then squirted it out. Turns out it's actually more like a thick paste than a gooey silicone caulk. And I put sort of a ring around it and then used the back of a plastic spoon to spread it around until it was as smooth as I could get it, and let it harden up. Within about an hour it gets to be pretty tacky, pretty solid, and after a few more hours it was completely set up. Very low odor, just as promised. In fact, it actually smells kind of nice. And now that it's been about 24 hours later, there's no odor at all. And it's on there pretty solidly. I think it'll make a nice durable coating. And this stuff insulates to about 20,000 volts per millimeter. So I don't think we'll have any arcing. I finished installing all of the painted K networks. But before I reinstall the circuit board, I want to take care of a few rust spots here and there in the chassis, so I've got some navel jelly working. And that really just leaves one thing, one major concern, which is this power switch. I did a little reading online hoping to find a simple cure, a simple way to repair these, or a source of replacements. Well, what I found out is that that's a very common problem. These switches are very prone to failure, and there is no readily available replacement. That got me thinking that I have actually seen more than one Predicta on eBay with a toggle switch installed on the side. In fact, I recall seeing a tandem, just the base unit somebody was selling, I think about a month ago, and somebody drilled a hole in the side and installed a toggle switch. It seemed kind of odd to me, and I was thinking, well, maybe that was to switch in an external speaker or a headphone jack or something. But no, what very likely it was for was that was the power switch. Somebody just jumpered the original power switch like I've done right now and used an external power switch. And I guess that was common practice back in the day, was to just short out that power switch. And I guess in a lot of cases, they didn't even bother installing an external toggle switch. People would just plug or unplug the set, or use a wall switch, to switch the outlet on and off. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do. I'll still make an attempt at dissecting that, see if I can repair it. I did see one suggestion online, which was to get the old switch off there and try to extend that center shaft such that it can push an external switch, like get a more reliable type of modern switch, and rig up some kind of mechanism that it can be activated by this. So I've been looking on Mauser and other places to see what kind of push-on, push-off switches they have available, and to see, maybe could solder some mounting tabs on here, or mount it to the chassis somewhere down in there, or such that could be activated by the same shaft here. I just pried back those metal tabs so I can open up the power switch. And here it is. Okay, so back of the control, and there's the shaft that goes in and out. And I can see we've got a spring shaft here. It's got a corkscrew on it. So I imagine that's how it translates the push action to a rotary action. We've got a cross piece here, and in the bottom there is the actual switch. So this was making horrible contact. So here's a bunch of grease in there. You can see these brass contacts are kind of dirty, so I can try cleaning that up. Maybe I can resurrect this switch after all. I cleaned out the switch housing with first some contact cleaner, then I rubbed some Simichrome on the contacts to get the gunk off. You can see they're pretty worn down in there, but I'm hoping they still have some life left. Now a lot of that gunk was dried up grease, and I will be putting some new grease in there. Otherwise the switch will seize up, wear away pretty quickly. But before I do that, I want to make sure that it's actually working. So let's see if I can get this back together and test it out. It's a little tricky to get this thing back together, but I've done it a couple times now, so kind of got the idea. Meter. Still not working right. It's the same problem I've had from the beginning. I only get solid contact when I keep the switch depressed. When I let go, it goes back to infinity. Yep, I keep poking around, see if I get it to work better. I think it's concerned now that even if I get it to work, it's just going to be very unreliable. I did notice on this though that there is a CTS part number. Type something, let's get some crud, some flux on here. Try to clean that off so you can find a part number anywhere. I'll ask around, you never know, somebody like Moyers or Playthings of the Past might have some. Rated for 3 amps at 125 volts or 1 amp at 250. It's CTS type, I think type J or something. That's all I see though. There's no part number. But, you know, I'll post some photos, ask around. Or maybe one of you guys has something like this. Well, I kept working at the switch, including I bent up a couple little ears on that brass piece that makes contact. Those engage a cross piece that twists on that corkscrew whenever you push this in. So I was thinking maybe that wasn't making a good grip. And I also greased everything up really good. Seemed to be working okay, so I bent these ears back over. I have no confidence this will keep working for any extended length of time, but right now it seems to be working alright. Time will tell. And by the way, I did look through that box of vintage parts I got recently, and I found some switches. It seemed really encouraging at first, but they're all like push on, pull off. They're not the click on, click off type. Plus the housing's quite a bit different. I don't think that this would fit onto here properly anyhow. So I asked around online a bit about my predicament with the switch, and I got one recommendation, which was to just go to the local home improvement center and see what they have in the switch department. And yes, lo and behold, for a few bucks I got a push on, push off switch. Action's a little bit stiff. Yeah, and again, maybe not. Maybe it is about the same force. see how long's that throw in comparison. Let's say the throw length is just about the same. If anything, the Predicta is slightly longer. So if I was to take this switch off, and as I was saying earlier, try to rig something up, mount this switch somewhere down in here, such that the center shaft on this made contact with the center plunger, that might work alright. But, with some potentially really good news, is that somebody tipped me off that if I just went and looked in the early television foundations classified, there's somebody who has some new old stock Predicta switches. So I just sent him an email and we'll see what he has to say. Both the holiday set and the tandem set that I've been working on have replacement picture tubes. However, I have a couple other sets that have the originals. Here's one of them. It's 21EA P4, also known as the SF21. These have that 2.35 volt filament. This is what Philco was so proud of at the time. This is what they showcased in their advertisement. This picture tube with the incredibly short neck. Unfortunately, in order to make it this short, they made some engineering compromises, and these were notorious for having a short life. I don't think it's because the filament's burned out. I think it's because the emissions just went into the toilet, and these really don't rejuvenate. There's just not that much cathode material to work with. So both of my original Philco picture tubes aren't dead, but they have really, really poor emissions. I tried rejuvenating one of them, and it had little, if any, effect. In fact, it may have even dropped the emissions down a little bit. So I've had my eyes open for replacements, and over the past year or so, I have picked up a couple potential replacements. However, they are not the original recommended replacement. That would be the 21 FDP4. This was the official replacement for this picture tube. It had the same short neck length, but it was a better designed electron gun. And I think this is what's in my holiday set and one of my tandem sets. But these are essentially impossible to find. I've never seen one for sale. But it's not the only game in town. There are a number of 21-inch, 110 degree deflection angle picture tubes out there. And that's what I was able to pick up. One of them is a 21 CEP4 Silver Glow. It's a rebuilt picture tube. It's on the end here. Somebody found a cache of these, maybe 20 or 30 of them when they were selling them on eBay. All with buy it nows, and I immediately pounced on this guy. So notice it does not have the 21 EAP4 listed, or the 21 FDP4, because the neck's longer. So if I just guesstimate here, I'll just try to keep my fingers locked in the right position. There we go. It's about 1.5 inches longer. But otherwise, electrically, everything's the same. The bulk of the body here is the same size. It'll fit inside the plastic case. Oh, and I can tell this has been rebuilt, not only because I know that it says it on the box, and you can tell it's rebuilt, but it's got a noticeable weld seam around here where the new neck was attached. Alright, and the other one I got is a 21 ESP4, which I think is a slightly shorter neck, but then it's got a longer plastic piece here which kind of offsets it, so still all told too long. Now, it's not the end of the world. You can still use these. You just have to either leave the plastic cover off the back of the CRT housing or add some extenders to it. Oh, by the way, both of these test fantastic. They test like they're brand new. So I might be able to squeeze some life out of like this guy, let it warm up over a long period of time, watch it in a dim room, but I think I'll retrofit my sets to use these guys. I should mention that this 21 ESP4 also has some electrical differences. G1, instead of being on pin 2, I think is on pin 6. And also the bias is a little bit different. The original is 36 volts, I think this is 52 volts. But I think I can make it work. The guy I bought it from sold me a rewired connector here. And I can fiddle around with the bias voltages if I need to get the contrast and brightness right. Here's that plastic cover I'm talking about. There's 4 Phillips screws that hold it on. So if the neck is too long, you can simply take that cover off, get some plastic spacers and nylon spacers, maybe an inch and a half long, get some longer screws, and just have the back stick out further. Then maybe wrap some type of plastic material around to cover up the gap. Not an ideal solution, but it's other guys have had to do it before, and it looks like I will too.